about it because I said, you know what we need right now is for somebody to invent or to us to be invaded by some super predator, large size, large teeth, large appetites, and large amounts of strength that decided to feed on people in the cities so people would have to start sharpening up in response because there became obvious and lethal consequences to inability to cope. That's almost what we're doing in a very off-brand way of bringing these predators right into our midst when people are upset when, what is it, Mr. Penny gets acquitted for choking out a psycho on a subway who's got a long rap sheet of physical violence and inappropriate behavior. And the same people that are upset about that are the ones that are talking about the mentally ill people that go off, and then the other ones that don't want anybody to be armed and to protect themselves from the freaks that go crazy and shoot up a subway, which happens. They don't get the inconsistencies in their positions. What do they call it? Cognitive dissonance. They don't get it. It's like you complain about something on one hand and then turn right around and push the same thing when it comes to supporting one of your little contentions.
Judge Joe Brown's all-new barbecue sauce and seasoning. Justice in the form of flavor.
Law firms will take this as a retainer.
What? It must be a law firm where they hungry as hell. Now you gonna help me with this parole I'm dealing with?
Judge Joe Brown's all-new barbecue sauce and seasoning. Justice in the form of flavor. With one taste of our premium blends of all-natural ingredients, herbs, and spices, you'll fall in love with meat all over again. Judge Joe Brown's all-natural barbecue sauce collection is made up of 2 zesty flavors, original and spicy. There's only one way to bring order back to barbecuing. Just add Judge Joe Brown's all-natural barbecue sauce and seasoning, and you be the judge.
And let me just welcome back Mr. Charles Rambo and L.A. Pink. Mr. Charles Rambo, you know, you were running for sheriff for the Fulton County. And L.A. Pink, you are founder of streetrumors.org. And happy holidays, happy new year, Merry Christmas, everybody. And hi, Judge. So Judge Joe Brown, he took a break. I took a break. And now we are back, you know, bringing everyone some good, vital, informative content. And today we're going to be talking about Fulton County Fani Willis, but I want to start off talking about Sheriff LaButte. He was, I guess, reelected sheriff, and apparently he was supposed to be sworn in January, but ended up getting sworn in last week. I have a picture here. He had, you know, hand on the Bible, right hand up, being sworn in again as sheriff of Fulton County, even though they have a whole bunch of corruption. The Department of Justice is investigating Fulton County, basically the federal government. And they have a whole bunch of violations, lawsuits. They were recently, twice over the summer, busted for having drug rings, sex rings, anything you could think of, right? So, LA, you had brought this to my attention. And of course, I wanted Charles Rambo to come on to elaborate more. What is going on in Fulton County in the sheriff department, and the controversy right now behind Sheriff LaButte?
Speaking to this notion, the elections results still have not been posted in Fulton County. I ran as a write-in candidate. I ran as a certified write-in candidate. It was posted there at the election polls throughout Fulton County. However, they still have not released to me. I'm saying the Fulton County Board of Elections and Registration. They still have not posted my numbers. So technically, you have certified a race without the opponent's number. So for me, honestly, I'd say that, and I've sent a complaint to the elections board, both the state and the county, saying that the race should be nullified or put on temporary hold until they can get the numbers posted. To this day, they still have not and will not give me my numbers, which tells me, when you run as a write-in candidate, you take your chances. It's not very much, very popular way to run, but I had name recognition. I had works with inside of the community. I had the connections with inside of the community. So you cannot tell me by any means that he won 425,000 votes with all of the issues that are going on right now. So right now we're at a standstill. I've testified before the state elections board, and even one of the elections board members from Fulton County came and testified and said that she did not feel that the certification was legal because she did not have all of the numbers for the total number of electors throughout the county, and she did not have the certified count for white-in candidates. That was her exact testimony. So right now, we're still waiting to find out how they're going to release this information, but something tells me I got more votes than what was expected. In fact, I want to parenthetically pause and say I believe the race may have been closer because you could have easily said you only got 15 votes and been done with it. I can deal with that, move forward, but you're not going to just hijack the number and just keep moving forward.
Comment. Since I talked to you earlier and you told me about setting this up, I went and looked. I couldn't get into Georgia, but I did find this principle that's an old one in Tennessee, and maybe this is what these people are relying on. Fani, LaButte, the whole 9 yards of them. They stumble on a line or two that's somewhere out there in the law, and they don't get that there is more to it. And what that may be is a thing that basically says if somebody is sworn into an office, that stops the proceeding as to whether or not he is elected to the office. And then you have to transition into a complex procedure to remove from office and state the fact he was not properly elected to it as the context. They may be seizing on something like that in Georgia law. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to look it up, or I haven't looked it up. But that may be what it's done. It's an amateur thing where you seize upon something out of context and try to set the whole thing up, and you try to game the system is what is going on. But I notice it's casual, and that also may be for this purpose, which puts him back into apparent authority under that theory. So he can order stuff disposed of, shredded, otherwise obscured. So in case there is a problem that comes up later, the material won't be there. I got to thinking about something that I got involved in almost 25 years ago. And well, it was 25 years ago. And what that was somebody lost out on a clerkship at a very suspect kangaroo court type thing we had here with juvenile court. And I asked a judge friend of mine, since I was out of town, if he would swear in the new appointee 2 days early. He did. The new appointee got the sheriff's department, now deputized under him, to go down and seize records. And he found out the old administration was trying to remove crates worth of evidence that was very condemning. So they may be in a position of trying to get the authority to dispose of or conceal records that are very incriminating. That might be what it is. And I'm looking at the lady in a pair of tennis shoes, which is not what you'd usually have as part of your attire to formally swear in somebody as the high sheriff of a large metropolitan area.
Ellie Pink, you also told me something, you could say it's breaking news that has to do with Sheriff LaBeouf and his swearing in. You're muted.
I was going to say something when Judge Joe Brown just said what he said, because if that being the case and him swearing in early, trying to beat the situation on January the 1st, after January 1st, he will not have any bond. No bond down here is his assuring bond, right, Rambo, is not accepting him. No one will pick him up. No one is accepting him from the bonding, from what was told to me, from the assuring bonding.
You have to have, that's like insurance.
Yes, Rambo can give you clarity on that, because of course he most definitely knows that position. So Rambo, can you collaborate on it?
When I learned of it, and again, we're still listening to whether this is total fact, but at the end of the day, the sheriff, upon his oath, has to have a surety bond of at least $25,000. And that covers the faithful execution of his duties. And what I have come to understand is that a couple of the companies have turned that bond down, and it may be because of the total liabilities that he has incurred over the years with all of the deaths and all of the situations that are going on there at the jail. The county commission is responsible for paying that bond. And essentially, I understand that there is a stalemate in terms of whether they're going to pay a higher amount. If he is not able to get that bond, he cannot take office on January 1. So all the swearing in that you did ahead of time is going to waste.
And it is a violation because he didn't have a surety bond he went in, and what he tried to do and what he's trying to do is swear in on his old bond, which you cannot do that. This is a new term, and the judge should have asked for updated information instead of going off of his old information. And basically that's what they were trying to do, is swear him in, get him in on the old bond, not thinking any of us are paying attention, but knowing me, I'm watching him like a stain on his shirt. I mean, like literally, you can call me an informant if that's what you want to call me when it comes to the things he's doing inside of in the information that I'm giving. Someone gives me information every single day about this man, and I put it out. I don't care what it is. I don't care if anybody responds. I don't care if anybody's listening. I'm going to drop it like it's hot all the time, because we are wanting him out of here. And so from what was given to me, he is not right now. And I can't wait until after January 1st, because on January 2nd, if any buildings are open, I will be down there with the cameras and anybody else that wants to come. I wanted to make sure that y'all get it first, because Dana, I told you, y'all been riding with us. Y'all give out all of the stuff. So I wanted to make sure that you guys get it first. And we wanted to make sure that we get Rambo's story out as well, how they have bamboozled and hoodwinkled the community and basically voter fraud while they're talking about Trump down here with voter fraud. This is voter fraud when you suppress the votes of those that have went down there and placed their vote and have not had it come forth.
Let me ask a question to both of you. Is this bond requirement statutory?
Yes.
Okay. All
You
right.
can look it up under 1516-1.
Okay.
That's all of the code section for sheriffs.
Because Georgia is, it's not one of the newer states. So when it came into being, that's 200 some years ago, and nobody had heard of such an insurance bond. So the constitutional authority under the Constitution of your state would allow him to be a sheriff. Again, what I'm looking at suggests that this is an effort to give someone apparent authority, if not the actual authority, which allows people to safely respond to the apparent authority and allow a cleanup, like somebody's getting ready to abandon the embassy because the bad guys have a demonstration and they're going to storm it and take it over like they did in Iran back in the late 1970s. You destroy all the paperwork you have so they don't get it. Take it over, and that may be what's going on here, which what all of you have brought to light is not unlikely.
Well, Judge, also
You may have to go to a circuit court and challenge that.
Well, let me even bring this even more to light is that this past commission meeting, there was a resolution that was going to be introduced by the commissioners that would declare a state of emergency over the jail. But by advice of the county attorney, she told them to pull it back. So, I mean, why would you try to declare a state of emergency on the state of crisis that we already know that the facility is in? But if you declare a state of emergency, now you're talking about trying to go into your posse comitatus or whatever act is going to help you to restore order. Nonetheless, I just found the interesting timing of it in terms of the new issue with the bond, the mounting lawsuits, and then the DOJ report. And he still has not offered not one solution in terms of how to move forward.
Right. So, right. The swearing in, not getting the bond, and what else did you say?
Couple of things. The not consent decree, the federal DOJ report, and that's something. If you all want to go down that rabbit hole, I could speak expertly on that because there are no remedies that have been introduced on either side in terms of how to get things moving forward. They had essentially given him 49 days from DOJ to start showing some progress. I don't think anything has been shown.
Well, hold that for a second because I want to spin it into Fani Willis because I want to incorporate her because recently the court's rules Georgia lawmakers can subpoena Fani Willis for information related to her Trump case. So a judge has ruled that the Georgia State Senate can subpoena Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. As part of an inquiry into whether she has engaged in misconduct during her prosecution of President-elect Donald Trump, but is giving Willis the chance to contest whether lawmakers' demand are overly broad. So, a Fulton County Superior Court Judge Shakura Ingram filed the order last Monday, telling Willis she has until January the 13th to submit arguments over whether the subpoenas seek legally shielded or confidential information. Ingram wrote that would issue a final order, later saying what Willis had to respond to. However, fast forward to today, on the 31st, Georgia Attorney General asked the state Supreme Court to reject last-ditch effort by Fani Willis to maintain control over Donald Trump's case. Did you want to say anything, Judge, to that?
Well, that's appropriate. See, when you have the law, it's a step-by-step thing. It's like building a brick building. When you see the final result, there's a big building. But, you know, you lay one layer of bricks at a time, the next layer, the next layer, the next layer, until you get the house built. That's what you have to do with the law. It's one brick, one layer at a time until you get the structure complete. So a lot of people confuse what is necessary as an early step with the final result. It's not. So what I'm saying is, okay, we have some procedural steps to go through before it gets to the point where the final decision has been made. I did a little look into Georgia law on the subject, and there's been no real need in the history of Georgia for the matter to be where it is right now. So it has not been finally adjudicated by the state Supreme Court, but all of the component bricks have been made and the places they go have been laid out by prior Georgia decisions and statutes. So it looks like Fani Willis is going to lose, but she's dragging her feet, hoping for the inevitable and also to delay the inevitable. Her whole situation's dumb from the point she walked in that off-color dress, upside down and inside out, and got up on the stand, and Judge McAfee said, well, what are you doing? We're trying to decide whether it is even necessary to go forward with this. And she said she decided she was going to open her mouth, and then when that can opener went around, there were a whole lot of worms wiggling in there that shouldn't have been in there. So,
well, the Georgia Court of Appeals removed Willis from the case earlier this month in December, ruling that Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee had previously erred by failing to disqualify DA Willis and her office due to her personal relationship with former prosecutor Nathan Wade. Willis quickly filed papers indicating that she will appeal the decision. But now you have and then now the Georgia Courts of Appeal saying that she could be subpoenaed. And then Attorney General Carr, a Republican, he also announced his candidacy to run for Georgia governor in 2026. You know, he released a statement on X saying basically, no, you should not take her appeal into consideration. Quote, lawfare has become far too common in American politics and it must end. As such, I will encourage the Georgia Supreme Court to not take her appeal.
Well, see, you have two things going here. One, you have an intermediate appellate court that has ruled on the matter, but the state Supreme Court has not. So it's quite often the case that an intermediate appellate court, and typically states divide this into, there's a court of civil appeals and a court of criminal appeals, and then what they do may go to the state Supreme Court if the state Supreme Court says, okay, it's important enough for us to consider.
Right. So
where we are is at the intermediate stage right now. The issues have not been finally resolved as to the state of Georgia by their Supreme Court. Now,
let me say this. It was a judge that said that the Georgia State Senate can subpoena Fani Willis.
Yeah, that judge would have been on the same level I was on in Tennessee, which is a trial court judge of general jurisdiction. So that is a ruling that stands, and Willis's office appealed that to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals ruled as it ruled. And then the Supreme Court may or may not consider the matter, may reinstate what the trial judge did, or may support what the appellate judges did, or it may issue an entirely different type of ruling.
So let me just say this so that I can have a better understanding, then I'm gonna open the floor. The judge told the Georgia State Senate that she could be subpoenaed.
Yes.
Now, on the other hand, the Georgia Court of Appeals removed her from the Trump case.
Yeah.
So she is appealing not the subpoena part, but being removed from the case. She's appealing.
Actually, technically, she's going to wind up appealing both of them because they're two separate things.
Right.
The case involves a specific case of the state of Georgia versus Donald Trump et al. All right, meaning the other multiple defendants in the case. That's separate and apart. That's their matter because the state is against them and they are entitled to due process of law. Then there's the second matter that's got to do with the state and the state legislature itself having a dispute with a district attorney general. See, there's the attorney general for the state of Georgia. He's the one announced that he will ultimately be running for governor. Now, Georgia is divided into judicial districts, and each judicial district has an attorney general. That official is known commonly as the district attorney general, or what it is more commonly, the district attorney, which is an abbreviation of attorney general for district so-and-so under the attorney general for the state. So that's where you are right now. One attorney general or district attorney has done something that the state itself does not go along with. So the state is dealing with a suit or a legal action or a process against Fani Willis in her capacity as district attorney, alleging she's done something inappropriate. Meanwhile, a separate thing, there's this case that's under her office that has a collection of defendants who have an interest in things concerning Fani Willis, since she's the prosecutor immediately going after them. So there are two separate cases here.
Did LA Pink or Rambo, y'all want to say anything to that?
Rambo?
No, you go ahead. I'm sheriff expertise.
Okay.
It's like this. You got a criminal case and the district attorney is doing something you don't like, so you take your criminal case up. Meanwhile, the district attorney has been involved in a private automobile accident and somebody has sued her in civil court for damages as a result of the accident. Both of these cases are going through the system, her civil case and the case that involves you and her in her elected capacity. So don't confuse the two of them. They're two separate cases.
I want to see this bitch in front of the cameras again with the microphone. So the subpoena, will we see her, because I know they're going to film it live, being questioned by the Georgia State Senate? That's the subpoena. Maybe.
Now, there may be a point that is valid that she's raising. Some of the records may have an impact on a pending criminal case. But then again, the Constitution of Georgia and the United States says what? An open and speedy public trial. In other words, all matters pertaining to the case have to be public unless there is some compelling reason why not. If a compelling reason why not shows up, then the state legislative committee goes into closed session to hear the matter, so it does not get out into the public. Like, for example, if there is a drug ring that is allegedly murdering people in order to distribute their products and control the drug trafficking, and they're named individuals, well, obviously, since that's an ongoing investigation, you don't want it out there for the public to hear about. So that would go into a closed session. And the legislative body would require that the legislators involved be silenced about or gagged about what's going on behind the closed doors. That's a secret session. But if it's not, then it's in public, because Georgia has, through its Supreme Court and its laws, long held that if the state legislative body is dispensing public funds belonging to the citizens of the state of Georgia, then they can hold anybody that gets these funds awarded to them accountable for how they spend them. So that's basically what it is about. And she's going to lose that one. I can confidently predict that, but she's entitled to what? Due process of law, because she's a party to the action here, and she's entitled to that as representative of Fulton County. And since it has gotten to the point where she'd be the one that gets handcuffed and taken into custody and served the contempt time, she has a personal interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing that you spoke of.
Wait, repeat that because you were muted. Go ahead.
I heard the hearing that I spoke of.
Yeah, the process that you spoke of, the secret meeting, is that equivalent to an in-camera hearing?
Exactly. In other words, see, where Fani Willis is going wrong is her point is not taking into account the fact that a court can say, all right, you're saying we shouldn't reveal this because bring it to me and I'm the judge and I'm going to take a look at it. Anything that I see is confidential unless I release it. I did that all the time. In other words, all right, bring it to the court and we'll look at it in chambers and we'll decide whether or not this is crucial. And if you don't like my ruling, then you can appeal it. Ordinarily, what they're going to hold is the judge, experienced in law, et cetera, looked at it, reviewed, and he's the one on the spot. We have no reason to overrule his decision. So, yeah, it can be released or it can be held confidential. In other words, when you request information, oftentimes you see those heavy black lines through certain things. That's called redaction. The records are to be released with the accompanied redactions in the record unless a higher court says, no, we don't need those redactions. So that's how it will be resolved. You're right, exactly right, Sheriff Rambo. It's in camera with the court. In camera means to be in secret.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, listen, I think that's it for now, because the Fani saga continues. Listen, I think we want to see her in handcuffs. I want to see her, yes, in front of the Georgia State Senate. I also want to see her in front of the congressional committee. I want to see her answer questions to where is the money? Where did that money go? You know? So, and then also, I think Sheriff LaButte needs to be investigated because it's just a lot of corruption coming out of Fulton County.
I know you said that this was the final topic, but I do want to bring something to you all's attention. He made the most absurd comment here recently that's just got everybody sick to their stomach. He described the Fulton County Jail as a Titanic waiting to hit an iceberg, looking for an iceberg to hit. Well, damn it, if you are the captain of the ship, why aren't you navigating? Why didn't you learn the lessons of the Titanic from years ago and get a handle and navigate your ship? So essentially, he's saying he's cruising a Titanic looking for an iceberg to hit. And that iceberg just so happened to be that young man from Clark Atlanta University, who is a PhD student that was released from jail after spending 30 days for a crime that he did not commit. Essentially, he also was in class at the time that the crime was committed. So here is someone that, getting his education, what have you, and becomes a victim. And this is also the alma mater of the sheriff. You can't reach everybody, but at least you can have some touchstone inside of your jail to see what the hell is going on, because otherwise Black lives, and I don't say that from the Black Lives Matter, I'm saying Black lives literally are being lost in the process. Are we going to continue to want? And that's why I'm so sensitive, and that's why I stand very adamant about this, because ain't nobody saying a damn thing, from preachers to politicians to community leaders, about what's going on at the Fulton County Jail. So if I have to be that lone voice like Moses standing in the gap, I am what I am, and I'm going to continue to stand on that whether I lose or not, because those young men look just like me, and I've seen my share of those at 901 Rice Street that were not guilty of anything.
Aren't
Well, we
these the
learned
same
that
people?
from Yacht Gotti. We learned that from that. And right now, everybody is going berserk about Robert Brooks, but we have the same exact thing happening right down here over at the Fulton County Jail, whether if that's at Union City or if that's on Rice Street, it's happening. That exact same thing. So if they want to be outraged about something, be outraged about something that is happening right here up under your nose, because that is happening daily right here in Fulton County up under the leadership of Sheriff LaButte.
Isn't
And
that
it,
a
go ahead,
horrible
sir.
example of white supremacy locking up all of these black people callously with no concern for the consequences? That's
Yeah,
what they're saying. It's white supremacy, but it doesn't look like any white men and white women are doing this. It looks like they got color on their faces to me.
Right.
See,
and you hit
popular.
it right on the head, judges, is that this is a black administration. These are black administrations elected to our highest levels of office. I don't like to play this comparison game, but no Italian political body would allow for their people to be treated in this manner. No Jewish, no white, no one who is in power would allow for criminal justice. In fact, this is probably the only criminal justice system that I have seen in Georgia. In fact, the United States, hell, I was just in Detroit the other day. They just built a brand new jail, 2,500 people, and to the tune of $325 million. And they did it under budget. So why would we want to build a 5,000 bed space for a county that is much smaller than Wayne County to the tune of $1.7 billion? Again, perpetual mass incarceration cycles. That's another rabbit hole we can go down. But one day, Dana, I would love to come back and be sharpened and tuned up by the judge about this DOJ report, because everything in there were things that I had told you guys about that I had fixed under CompStat from 2009 to 2016. Everything from the PREA, the Prison Rape Elimination Act, to the gang investigations, to the manpower, the use of force, all of those things were things that we cleared up with 95% compliance ratings under Judge Marvin Shuve, who was the federal district court, and he was a tough one. So you couldn't pull anything over on him. One day, I hope that we can come back and talk about that DOJ report in depth.
Yeah.
Something, a quick comment here, Sheriff Rambo. I've never brought this up ever, and I've never heard it discussed, but there was an insidious practice during slave times to give favored mammies and houseboys their own slaves to work for them so that they could prosper and be more enthusiastic upper echelon slaves for very rich plantation owners. That's what you've got in Atlanta. You've got the mammies and the houseboys who are victimizing the rest of the colored on the Atlanta plantation for somebody else's benefit. I'm going to make a prediction that if Trump's Department of Justice does what it's supposed to do and appoints adequate special prosecutors, you will find Fani Willis, Bragg, Letitia James, you might find Mearshon, and you will find the federal prosecutor up in New York, the one that just turned in his resignation, prosecuted for conspiracy, because they all had multiple meetings in the White House to discuss going after Donald Trump, which is a conspiracy. Under American law, federal law, and Georgia law, you can commit a conspiracy, which is felonious, to do a legal act in a legal fashion. And the prosecutions that they implemented are not illegal per se, but that they conspired to bring them about is felonious. And if the law is followed, I predict all of them, including Fani Willis, are going to be standing trial or facing indictments on the federal level. Now, what I am seeing the allegations I'm running into look suspiciously like money laundering, with Fani Willis being head of the doggone cabal that's doing that, the sheriff being part of it. There's too much missing money without explanation. And when the chief law enforcement officer of a district is involved in the process, then the process is generally safe until and unless that person acts a damn fool like she did. That was, by the way, one of the problems, and I'll interject this, excuse me, Dana, with what's gone wrong in the United States of America over the last 100-some years. You had a sick SOB named J. Edgar Hoover, who was in charge, and he set up an atmosphere with the FBI, and the FBI got charged by Congress and other federal entities and the Department of Justice with conducting investigations that they should have been an object of. And they, of course, conceal their complicity, their involvement in American law. American government to this day has been tainted and corrupted because you allowed somebody who was nominally involved in the criminality in charge of investigating the criminality. So that's what you have in Fulton County, Georgia, from outside impression. It's somebody who has been covering it up was nominally in charge of investigating something she was part of. And that's falling apart. And I predict there will be a series of indictments on these people.
That's it.